Tier 1 is about players who can pull up from anywhere and make you pay for it. Trae Young and Luka Doncic set the tone here because they've turned deep threes into legitimate weapons, not just highlight reels. Trae's been draining shots from 30 plus feet consistently since 2020, and Luka's step back has become one of the most unguardable shots in basketball. What makes them dangerous isn't just the range, it's that defenses have to pick them up at half court or risk giving up an open look. Not contesting these shots is the quickest way to get benched. When these players bring the ball up to the top of the key, they're demanding everyone's attention. The ISO threats start here, and if you leave any of these players open, they're dropping 30 on you. You got someone like Tyrese Halliburton who brings a completely different flavor. He's not hunting volume for volume's sake. He's top 5 in three-point percentage while also running the offense at an elite level, rarely turning it over. That efficiency, mixed with his ability to pull up in transition or create his own shot in the half court, makes him lethal in a quieter way. CJ McCollum has been doing this shit for years, blending mid-range craft with his three-point shooting and sitting at 39% from deep for his career. He's the guy that doesn't need space to get his shot off, just a sliver of daylight and the confidence to take it. Jamal Crawford and Brandon Roy proved this style could carry an offense before everyone was shooting 10 threes a game. Kemba Walker and Fred VanVleet picked up that blueprint and ran with it, becoming guys their teams leaned on when a bucket had to come from nothing. Bradley Beal, Eric Gordon, Tyler Hero, and Jalen Brunson fit right in, shouldering scoring loads and hitting tough shots under extreme pressure. LaMelo Ball and Michael Porter Jr. add size to the equation, making them even harder to contest. Not to mention, LaMelo plays like he's at an open pickup game at LA Fitness with his AirPods in. Being that comfortable under the bright lights makes him lethal and demands eyes from everyone on defense. What connects all these players is that they're the first option when defenses are locked in. Their shots create everything else. Tier 2 is where versatility became the weapon. Paul George and Jason Tatum aren't just waiting for open looks. They're forcing defenses into impossible decisions every possession. What makes them so tough to guard is that they're comfortable attacking from anywhere. PG's been around 38% from 3 for his career, but what makes him dangerous is how comfortable he is coming off handoffs or rising up against the break with a hand in his face. Tatum's championship sidestep creates just enough separation, and when bigs have to close out on him at the perimeter, he's already ready for the next move. Both of them make you pay no matter how you guard them, which is exactly what separates this tier from pure shooters. LeBron James belongs here because of how his game evolved. He's got over 2,000 made threes now, and his willingness to launch from the logo late in games forces defenses to respect him from 30 feet out. That's not the LeBron we saw in his first run in Cleveland, but it's the one that extended his offensive dominance deep into his career. Donovan Mitchell, the Spider, operates in a similar space, especially in the playoffs when he goes batshit crazy. His empty corner pick and roll into a step back 3 is one of the most reliable late game actions you'll see, and when he gets hot, there's no stopping that shit. Then you got the vets who defined versatility before it was the standard. Allen Houston had textbook mechanics and hit over 40% from 3 in an era when spacing didn't exist, including that iconic 1999 playoff run with the Knicks. Joe Johnson was ISO Joe for a reason, using that snake dribble into a rhythm step back to close games. Carmelo Anthony logged multiple 40% three-point seasons while also dominating the mid-post. That insane fast midi had even the best defenders jumping. And then, later in his career, those trailed threes and pick and pops kept him relevant. And don't even get me started on when the hoodie was on. Hedo Turkoglu was ahead of his time in Orlando, running point forward actions in a 4-out system and hitting clutch threes that opened up everything for Dwight Howard. What unifies this tier together is adaptability. If you switch, they'll cook the mismatch. If you drop, they'll rise up. If you show, they're definitely making the right read. Their versatility is the weapon. What separates this group is trust. Chauncey Billups earned the nickname Mr. Big Shot because when the game was on the line, you wanted the ball in his hands. He shot around 40% from 3 in the playoffs with an 89% free throw rate, and that 2004 Finals MVP run was built on pull-up threes against drop coverage and dagger pick-and-roll shots that crushed the Lakers. Billups never forced bad looks, but when the moment required it, he delivered. That's the common thread here. Players who understood exactly when and where to take their shots. Mike Conley and Danilo Gallinari fit perfectly into that mold. Conley's drift threes off late clock pick and rolls have stabilized so many playoff offenses, with stretches where he's hitting 39 to 40% from deep when his team needs it the most. Gallinari spent his career as one of the best pick and pop spacers at the 4. Hard to believe, but the stats validate the point. Hovering in the high 30s from 3 while also being automatic from the free throw line. Both of them are advanced finishers who don't hunt tough shots, but absolutely convert when the defense breaks down. Steve Smith, Eddie Jones, Jason Richardson, and Nicholas Batum all brought different flavors to that same reliability. Smith was posting up as a big guard and kicking out for 3 before analytics told teams that was efficient. Eddie Jones was running the floor and hitting trailed 3s in transition when that wasn't standard for two-way wings. Jason Richardson lived in the corners and off flare actions, quietly putting up volume from the wing without ever forcing anything. Batum became the ultimate glue guy, hitting 40% from the corners during deep playoff runs and making the right reads out of short rolls every single time. These aren't the guys who dominated highlight reels, but they're the ones coaches leaned on in close playoff games because their mechanics held up under pressure and their decision making never slipped. These players in Tier 4 didn't need the ball in their hands to control a game. Steve Kerr sits at the top of the all-time three-point percentage list at 45.4%, and that number isn't inflated by low volume. He took big shots in big moments and made them at a historic rate. Mark Price was the same way, shooting 40+% from 3 while also being over 90% from the free throw line, which made him the template for what an elite guard should look like from a shooting standpoint. What made both of them so effective wasn't just their percentages, it was how their presence on the floor opened up everything else. Defenses had to account for them at all times, even when they weren't touching the ball. Drazen Petrovic belongs in the conversation as one of the most tragic what-ifs in basketball history. He shot 44% from 3 before modern spacing even existed, and he was doing it with a level of difficulty that most players today wouldn't even attempt. His career was cut short at 28, but the legacy he left behind influenced an entire generation of European shooters. Patty Mills carried that torch in his own way, becoming one of the most reliable playoff shooters for the Spurs. His ability to get hot in elimination games and hit 3s off movement made him invaluable in San Antonio's system. Hershey Hawkins, Sam Cassell, Brent Barry, and Mitch Richmond all thrived in systems that demanded precision. Hawkins was quietly one of the most consistent shooters of the early 90s, never forcing anything but always making the right play. Cassell had that swagger and confidence that made his shots feel bigger than they were, especially in playoff runs with the Rockets and Celtics. Brent Barry could shoot off the catch or dribble, making him a versatile weapon in a list of teams and later with the Spurs and Rockets. Mitch Richmond was a volume scorer who also happened to shoot over 39% from 3 during his peak, blending efficiency with high usage in a way few guards could. These weren't flashy players, but their discipline and mechanics made them silent killers who raised the floor of every team they played for. Tier 5 is about high volume and high leverage. Glenn Rice doesn't get nearly enough credit for how dominant he was as a shooter in the 90s. He was putting up volume on 47% from the field and 40% from the 3 when most teams weren't even running plays to get guys open looks beyond the arc. His ability to score in bunches made him one of the most dangerous offensive weapons of his era, and he did it without needing to create off the dribble like other stars. Jason Terry built his entire reputation on being that guy you could trust in crunch time games. Over 2,200 made threes and an NBA championship, highlighted by that dagger 3 in the finals against Miami. He wasn't the most accurate shooter, but when the game mattered most, he straight up delivered. Rashard Lewis and Mike Miller both became championship pieces because they could stretch the floor at positions that traditionally didn't shoot. Lewis was launching threes as a power forward in Orlando, opening up the paint in a way that changed how teams had to defend the Magic. Miller had one of the most memorable finals performances ever in 2012, hitting threes with one shoe barely hanging on while battling through injuries. That performance alone defined what this tier is about. Players who show up when it counts, regardless of the circumstances. Gilbert Arenas, Agent Zero, was ahead of his time with his range. He was taking 60-foot game winners before Steph made it normal, and his confidence was unmatched. He was making crazy shots and making them look effortless, and defenses just couldn't find an answer. Dan Marley and Vince Carter brought different elements to high-volume shooting. Marley was a defensive anchor who could also bomb threes in transition, while Vince evolved from a pure dunker into one of the most lethal catch-and-shoot threats in the league later in his career. Danny Green and Duncan Robinson represent the modern versions of this archetype. Transition snipers and catch-and-shoot specialists who've won championships by doing exactly what their teams needed. Kyle Lowry rounds out this tier as someone who could carry offensive loads, but also knew when to spot up and knock down big shots. These players didn't always have the prettiest numbers, but they had moments that swung championships and defined legacies. Steve Nash, shooting 42.8% from 3 on a career basis, sounds impossible when you consider how little he actually shot. He didn't hunt threes like modern guards do, but when he took them, they were almost always going in. That level of efficiency with his playmaking ability made him one of the most complete offensive engines the league has ever seen. Kevin Durant operates in a similar space, where the degree of difficulty just doesn't seem to matter. He's at 39% from 3 for his career, while also being unstoppable from the mid-range, and his release point is so high that contests are basically irrelevant. Kyrie sits right next to him in that conversation, shooting over 39% from deep with the kind of offhand creativity that makes every shot look like a highlight. These three represent the pinnacle of shot making, players who take bad shots and make them look routine. Nikola Jokic has no business being as good of a shooter as he is. He's a center, shooting over 40% from 3 during his MVP season with a point guard touch is something we've never seen before. He's not just spotting up either. He's pulling up off the dribble, hitting step backs, and doing all kinds of shit while running an entire offense through the high post. Paul Pierce and Chris Mullin were doing this before it became trendy. Pierce made a career out of hitting contested off-balance threes that had no business going in, and his clutch gene made him even more dangerous. Mullin had one of the smoothest strokes in the game. Pause. Blending finesse with volume in an era that didn't prioritize three-point shooting the way it does now. Jason Kidd and Buddy Hield round off this tier in interesting ways. Kidd wasn't a natural shooter earlier in his career, but he turned himself into a legitimate three-point threat later on, which extended his value as a floor general. Buddy Hield might not have the same name recognition, but his ability to shoot off movement and hit tough shots in transition make him one of the best shooters we've seen in the league today. What connects everyone in this tier is that they don't need ideal conditions to score. Give them a sliver of space or even a contested look, and they're making that shit anyway. Watching them operate feels unfair because the shots that should be low percentage for everyone else are routine for them. Tier 7 shooters are broken. Shit feels like a cheat code at this level. Stephen Curry didn't just become the greatest shooter of all time. He fundamentally changed basketball. He's the all-time leader in made threes and averages 4.2 made threes per game, which is crazy when you realize how many games he's played. Defenses have to guard him from half court, and that gravity opens up everything for his teammates. Klay Thompson complemented him perfectly, and that 60-point game on 11 dribbles is still one of the most ridiculous performances I've ever seen. Pure rhythm shooting at its finest, and together they forced the entire league to rethink how offenses should be built. Ray Allen and Reggie Miller set the blueprint for what modern shooting guards should be. Ray was shooting 40% from 3 on high volume and hit one of the most iconic shots in finals history to save Miami's championship run. Reggie's 8 points in 9 seconds against the Knicks is still legendary, and his ability to run off screens and pull up in transition made him a nightmare to guard. Both of them proved that elite shooting could be the foundation of a championship team, not just the complementary skill. Damian Lillard and James Harden took that foundation and pushed it even further. Dame's shooting 37% from 30 feet out, which is borderline disrespectful, and Dame time exists because he's hit so many game winners from distance that shouldn't be possible. Harden revolutionized the step back 3, winning 3 scoring titles by making defenses choose between giving up an open 3 or letting him get to the rim. His ability to manipulate space with a step back changed how guards straight up approach scoring. Dirk Nowitzki, Larry Bird, Peja Stojakovic, Kyle Korver, and JJ Redick all contributed to this tier in unique ways. Dirk revolutionized what a big man could do, hitting 50, 40, 90 seasons and making the one-legged fadeaway from 3 a legitimate weapon. Dirk's insane 2011 playoff run alone would earn him a spot in this tier. He shot over 46% from 3 across the entire postseason while being the #1 option on every possession, including the iconic 48-point Game 1 versus OKC, where he hit 24 of 24 free throws and buried multiple contested threes over double teams. And the teams Dirk was stacked against made that one of the hardest runs to an NBA championship that we've ever seen. Larry Bird's legendary 1986 season featured back-to-back three-point contest wins, one of which he entered telling the locker room who's playing for second, and he walked out with his warm-up jacket still on. Bird was doing this shit before the three-point line even mattered, and when it did, he dominated with it, and that doesn't even feel like the right word to describe it. Peja was one of the first true stretch forwards, bombing threes at a high clip in Sacramento's fast-paced offense. Stojakovic's 2003 season saw him averaging over 26 points on absurd efficiency, hitting game winners and dropping 40 pieces while dragging defenders 30 feet out from the rim because of his limitless confidence. Korver and Redick became the gold standard for movement shooting, running marathons around screens and converting at elite rates. Kyle Korver's 2015 season remains one of the cleanest shooting years in NBA history, 49% from 3 on real volume, turning the Hawks into a 60-win offense built around his gravity. And JJ Redick's postseason heaters, from his Orlando days to his late career Clippers run, routinely flipped games, especially his Game 7 dagger versus the Spurs in 2015, and his stretch of 100-plus straight games with a 3 for Philly. Collectively, these players didn't just shoot at a high level, they forced defensive revolutions. Teams invented new coverages, new screen negotiating principles, new switching rules, and even new scouting philosophies because of them. Their influence stretched across generations, from youth basketball systems to modern NBA offenses built entirely around spacing. This group didn't just hit shots, they rewrote the expectation of what an elite shooter looks like, and their impact is felt in every team, system, and player that values shooting as the foundation of the modern game.